Okay, we're live. Hi,
All
Catherine.
right.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Luciana?
I'm doing great. And this is WLJA, Common Law Under God. I'm Luciana, and this is Catherine Hine, a resigned attorney of 40 years from the state of Ohio. It's been quite a week, hasn't it, so far?
Yes, it has. Yes. Um, I I wanted to start off with because we were going to talk about basically what we're calling war, because we're in a time of war and rumors of wars and all kinds of stuff, and this is some of the stuff that our Heavenly Father has had to say about war, and that one is from Proverbs. The horse is made ready for the day of battle, but the victory belongs to the Lord. Deuteronomy 20, verses 1 through 4. When you go out to war against your enemies and see horses and chariots and an army larger than your own, you shall not be afraid of them, for the Lord your God is with you, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And when you draw near to the battle, the priest shall come forward and speak to the people and shall say to them, Hear, O Israel, today you are drawing near for battle against your enemies. Let not your heart faint. Do not fear or panic or be in dread of them. For the Lord your God is he who goes with you to fight for you against your enemies to give you the victory.
That's correct. I love
And
that.
and
And
here's another one. Psalms 144, verse 1 through 2. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. He is my steadfast love and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield, and he in whom I take refuge, who subdues people under me. And then finally, uh, Matthew 5:9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Well, finally, Romans 12, verse 18. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. And that's all I'm gonna say. But
yeah,
that's nothing like what we're living with now.
yeah,
And I think there's just a lot of lies been put out there about what um, our so-called government can do almost anything if they call it war. Well, we're at war, so we can do this, we can do that, we can do this other thing. But really, what is war? Um, and I'm saying it's a euphemism for mass murder. Isn't that really what it is? Now, if it's a defensive war, that's just people defending their homes and their families. And if you have to be organized in your communities to do that, that's I don't think there's anything unlawful or sinful about that. Um, and we must do that. We must defend ourselves. But we've we've taken to we've exaggerated that, or we've allowed them to be over us and to tell us, oh, we have to go to foreign countries and kill women and children and drag them out of their homes in order to be safe. We can't feel safe as long as somebody somewhere doesn't agree with us about something, and we have to go kill them if they're on the wrong side. So that's really what it's turned into. But really, if you trace the history of so-called warfare in on this continent, on the North American continent, going back to the Revolution, and I don't know, I'm sure this slogan has come about even before the American Revolution, but it's the first casualty of war is truth, right? Don't we all know that? And one of those we saw that casualty being, the casualty of truth at the signing of the so-called Victory Treaty, the Treaty of Paris. And I don't know how many people are aware that the victory that the colonists obtained on the battlefield, which was a defensive position, to eject the invaders of King George, was surrendered in the Treaty of Paris. And I think we've mentioned this before a few times. 3 bar members did that: John Jay, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin. The Treaty of Paris, if you look it up, never specified that we would be truly independent. There would be a show of pseudo independence, but there would never be real independence. And that continues to this day.
Yeah.
At least in their minds. But that's them, and that's their fictitious, bar member world, their corporate world, which was even corporate then. And then that continued with our, I won't even get into the War of 1812, but the Civil War has been written about extensively, and that was basically, a lot of people have different opinions about what that was actually about. Anybody want to talk about that?
We have Angie on here. Hi, Angie.
Hi, Angie.
Hold on a second. How are you doing?
I'm not doing too bad.
Okay. All right. It's good to see you again.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Is Nikki on, or I'm not sure.
It says they need to connect their mic and their camera.
Okay.
So
all right.
If she does that, we can get her on.
Yeah. Apparently, well, as far as the Civil War, and which it looks like our corporate public servants who think they're our masters really want that for us. But the one from 1861 was really because of what the North perceived as a breach of the contract of the social compact, the union contract that the Southern states agreed, and of course this was post-Constitution, that there would be a nation that would be based on consent of the people. Well, the people of the Southern states stopped consenting, and the Southern senators walked out of Congress in, I believe it was 1861, and making Congress no longer have a quorum.
Wow.
So that was a clear manifestation that, like any services contract, I mean, if that's what the social compact is, you're the government, you will provide services for us, the people, and we will pay you a certain amount or whatever for that, and for our common defense. And we were okay with that, and that's what the Articles of Confederation specified in 1781. But then, little by little, the public servants decided they wanted more power, and they started changing the Constitution. We got the 1787 Constitution, which brought in interstate commerce, the power to regulate interstate commerce. And that was, of course, a power that was abused. Anytime you're seeing we have authority because we say so, is probably not really authority. Now, there's other stuff in the Constitution that says we agree we won't do this to you. You have these rights and we won't take these rights away. We can always use what our enemy admits to. But just because our enemy makes a self-serving statement that they're entitled to this, they're entitled to that because they said so, that doesn't make it true if we didn't consent to it. And we really never consented to any of these constitutions after the 1781 Constitution. We the people voted for delegates anyway. So the Civil War was, a fit of pique by the North because they needed funds from the South, and they wanted to have the Union, and it was clear that if slavery had to continue to preserve the Union, then that's what it would be. It was not over slavery. Lincoln said that if I can preserve the Union and keep slavery, I will do it. But
let us find a way to fool the people to have them believe otherwise, I think.
Yeah. Well, what Lysander Spoon talks about is, and normally if you have a contract, let's say, we will govern you and you will accept our governance, and you will pay us, or you will do this or that. And then there's a breach, or that you decide, I don't want your government services anymore. Let's say you decide that. I mean, if you're in contract with your government for water services and you don't need the water services anymore, you can just stop getting the water services and maybe get your water somewhere else. Now, nowhere in any Anglo-American law before the Civil War or since has it been a remedy that if one side breaches or they think that the other side has breached the contract by, we're out of here, we're seceding, that, okay, well, you breached the contract, you breached the social contract, so we get to kill you. That's never been a remedy for breach of contract, even if there had been a breach of contract.
Yeah.
Which is another issue.
Yeah.
So that kind of set a precedent, I think, that the corporate, the people running the corporate government could kill you if you disagree with them. So is that government by consent? The words are still there in the Constitution that it's a government by consent. What kind of consent is that? If when you withdraw your consent, they might kill you.
Right. They call you domestic terrorists and they call you crazy. You don't know what you're doing. You can't do that. That doesn't work. So, hi, Nikki. How are you?
Hi, Nikki.
I'm doing fine. Good to see you guys, or girls.
Good to see you too.
I'm very impressed with your shows. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Nikki's got a lot of information on modern history about the composition of, I don't know, what I consider the spin-offs of military, there's not a whole lot of difference. There's a lot of crossover between military and police. And want to just mention too, as far as police power, that's there's nothing inherent about police power. That was something that was invented by black-robed wonders in the 19th century. We have to have it, therefore we do have it. And it didn't matter if the people didn't think that we had to have it. So that's kind of where we got that. And you're always saying, of course, military is comprised of, or more so, police are former military typically. And because the skills involved in both pursuits are very similar, and that's really an issue. And one thing I want to mention too is, and we found this out when we did the Plaster versus DeWine case back in 2021. We found out that the people that were involved in enforcing the all kinds of COVID crap. This was even before the jabs. The people enforcing the mask mandates.
Right.
The plan was that they would be military, and so we named the people because we always do that in common law. We never look at their corporate labels, and we found out that at least one of the people that we had named, and because DeWine, the so-called, the CEO of State of Ohio, had named him because the thought was that we're going to organize the military, and they're going to go maybe door to door. They're going to be at shopping centers. They're going to be here, there, and everywhere enforcing mask mandates. And probably what they really wanted to do, they were already getting ready for, was to force the jabs on people. And there was some precedent for that after, I don't know how many of y'all remember Katrina. When was that? Back in the 90s, something like that. And New Orleans, Hurricane Katrina, and the use of cops. I don't know if they were FEMA cops or they have all different names. They're all corporate. Every one of them are corporate, and they were going door to door. I remember that they were going door to door in the outskirts of New Orleans to very wealthy looking homes, and they were grabbing people's guns by force. Yeah, and this was.
Oh wow! I didn't know that.
If I may,
I didn't either.
This
if I
was.
may.
Yes, please.
Yeah, and the thing is a lot of people don't realize that when the military went all volunteer in 1971, they were 70, 71, somewhere around there, depending on the branch. But when they went all volunteer, are we getting an echo? Or is it just me?
Not too bad. You want to mute the rest of us, Luciana?
Yeah, we could try that.
Okay.
Maybe. We'll see. Go ahead, Nikki. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when the military went all volunteer under the Social Security number, they were already getting paid with a coin or with a currency that breached Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution. It says that nothing but gold and silver shall be used for payment of debt, or or what they call it, tender. So payment. And they were already getting paid with a foreign coin prior to them going all volunteer under the Social Security number. Prior to that, they had a military number. So when they did that, they essentially became a mercenary force, by definition, obligated to serve corporate interests on foreign soil. Okay? So that ties everything that you're saying, Katrina, into or Catherine, I'm sorry. It kind of ties everything together. Doing what they did because that's what they get paid to do. And this is foreign to their soil, as far as being a mercenary.
What you're referring to as foreign soil? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
I know I'm so muted. You're talking about that the land mass of America is foreign to any corporate entity.
I can go in a bit deeper into that hole, into the root of the problem. 1787, in the 1787 Constitution, We, the people of the United States, okay, they established it for the United States of America. When you search that document for of America, you'll find that it's only in there 3 times. Everything by secession and acceptance goes into the 10 miles square. Okay, so, and another thing about that Constitution is that if you look at the dictionary definitions, and I have a website that I put this on already. If you look at the dictionary definition in 1785 Johnson's Dictionary for the word states, you will see that it has one definition, and this is also in the 1828 Webster's as well.
Okay.
And that is nobility. We, the people of the united nobility, in order to form a more perfect union for ourselves and our posterity. And looking at the definition in 1755 Johnson's and 1785 Johnson's and the 1828 Webster's, you'll see that esquires are the younger sons of noblemen. So does that tie a lot of this stuff that we're dealing with today? Does it kind of bundle it a little bit?
Nikki,
Okay,
you mentioned
ahead.
you have a website where you explain all of this. What is the
Yes.
website? What is it?
It's theultimateweapons.blogspot.com. And the ultimate weapons is truth and integrity. Okay? It's not, get a gun. It's nothing like that at all. And I'll put in the chat area here.
Okay, that'd be great.
There you
Yeah.
go. Contemporaneous exposition, those are legal words, as I understand it. That when a contract is entered into, at the time the contract is entered into. So it's been fraud since the get-go. We have been duped into unconscionable and adhesive contracts. There's a lot of things, law words that can be used for a lot of this stuff. And in addition, I put on my blog, and you will be able to see that Title 18, okay, Title 18, U.S. Code, 18 U.S. Code 1961 and 1962, prohibited activities. Receiving the Federal Reserve notes, there's it's foreign to Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution, and so on and so forth. So, they're dealing in a controlled substance when they're dealing in the money system that we're having to deal in.
Oh, you've got.
If you search it, if you just do, Control F and look for of America, you'll see it's only in there 4 times. And if you click on the 1787 Constitution in the blue, you'll come up with the transcription.
Okay, where is that? To the left here?
No, just down. It's all blue.
Oh, right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just click it on.
Oh, okay.
And then you're right on the site, and you'll see that the wording is exactly the same. And if you do a Control F and of America, look for, and you know how to do a Control.
Yeah. You said of America.
Of America, of, and the word OF and AMERICA.
Oh, correct. 3 times it says 1, 2, and 3.
Yep. You see that? And if you look at secession, CESSION, and acceptance, it doesn't, one word or the other. Yes, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17.
Oh, it refers to secession?
Yeah, well, you see, it's right there. Yeah, I think you're in there. It's very small on my screen.
Yeah, it's small on mine too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, with the secession and acceptance of the particular state. And state means republic or, anything else. So or even a state of one of the 50 states, when it starts accepting the coin under the Ashwander doctrine, the Ashwander rules, that they can't complain. They're getting, the notes.
What's the Ashwander rule?
Ashwander, just while you're on your computer, just type in Ashwander rules and Ashwander versus Tennessee Valley Authority, where it talks about current.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about. It's 1930s, I think, or 40s, early 40s.
They were already moving toward.
Yeah, you probably know that.
I didn't know the specific case, but yeah, they were easing us into using funny money.
Yeah, current actually in the 1891 Black's Law Dictionary, that's the first edition, the word current is a unit of exchange that's accepted. So that's an adjective. So when I hear politicians talk about our current democracy, our current, what do you call our Constitution and things like that, and I go back to what these words really meant, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, we're in trouble.
We're in trouble.
Yeah.
We are.
It's because words are missing from our vocabulary or they've been changed. But the meaning of those words, when these things came about, is very important at this juncture that we're in. And that goes back to the Declaration of Independence. They saw this coming. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people, a unified people, to put a number one there. So 1, 2, 3 step, put a number one there. Comes, yeah, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to, number one, dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. It was the Whigs and the Tories back then. Back in Yeshua's day, it was the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes, right? And today is the Democrats and Republicans. And then it goes on to say, and to assume amongst the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitled them. Decent respect for the opinions of mankind require that they should, number 3, declare the causes which impelled them to the separation. And as you can see, I'm all about, helping people declare the causes that lead to the separation.
Right.
What state are you in, Nikki? I'm sorry. What state are you from?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Where are you?
Ohio.
Oh.
A neighbor, but I'm on the other side. New York is my neighbor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. But the thing is, I mean, there's been, I always refer people back to the 1793 decision of Chisholm versus Georgia, and that admits that the people are the source of all law. So if the people want to reject this law of warfare, the law of prize, the law of admiralty, and all that was created by others that wanted to impose their will on the people, they're free to do that. Yeah, I agree with you about the corporate media and their use of the term democracy, just on and on and on, when that term is never used in the Constitution, even not even 1787 Constitution.
Yeah, they're and by saying our, and knowing what that preamble, how it really reads, I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness, they're telling us what they're doing. We're just not getting it.
I think a lot of us would be okay with the original 1781 Articles of Confederation. I think that's the only one the people actually did, through their delegates, kind of agree to.
Yeah, agree? And that's what actually led me to doing the research as to why I had somebody had given me back in 2012. They had given me a what do you call a certified copy of the pen version of the declaration, not declaration, but the Articles of Confederation. And there was a group of us, and we were talking about why are they tearing down the statues in the South. And it came to our understanding that they don't want people to know that the Articles of Confederation are perpetual. So if they're perpetual, they still stand.
Sure,
But
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Well, when we were going through each one of the articles in there, the first one says the style, STILE, shall be the United States of America. And style is like a turnstile. That is an entryway from one enclosure to another. So that is contract law. You go from one to another, you have to pay to get through a turnstile, years ago. And then what also we noticed is that some of the S's were capitalized and some were not.
Right.
And that's when I started to look into the dictionary definitions of, why is some capitalized and some not. And it tells right in that article, in the Articles of Confederation, what they had planned to do from the get-go. Those who were in charge of that, their creator, when you go on with the Declaration of Independence, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and they are endowed by their creator. There were no transition word between the first and the second paragraph. There were some in that, assembly saying, because we hold these truths to be self-evident, that our, creator of the laws of nature and nature's God. That's his way of doing things. There was others saying, although we hold these truths to be self-evident, our creator was much harder. So, I mean, it's kind of like if I almost found myself sitting there, in the assembly, listening to what was going on and reading the Federalist Papers and stuff like that. Just very, very interesting.
Yeah, are you suggesting that because we know that the founding fathers were non-Christians, were deists, are you suggesting that they were referring to some other God besides the Christian God?
Well, yeah, you can't serve, what is it, Elohim and
They were all Masons, we know that.
well, Mammon is a god, and
Yeah, that too.
and Eisenhower put into the the what do you call the allegiance to the flag of one nation under God. And it wasn't in the coin originally, but that got into the coin too, So the god Mammon is who I guess many are serving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Mammon is a personification of wealth, right?
The personification of money. Yeah.
Money, yeah.
Yeah. Or the love of money, greed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
But getting back to, what we wanted to address on the broadcast about the military and I've been interested in, the inducements that there have been historically for people to serve in the military, and that's gone on for thousands of years. Mm-hmm. And often it was, had to be done by force and through conscription. And then that really never changed. There would be honors heaped on soldiers, often posthumously, and that would be, I guess, incentive enough for some. And so few, certainly in my era of the Vietnam War, were just getting a little inkling that they weren't really fighting any kind of a defensive war or even helping the South Vietnamese in particular, not the people of South Vietnam. They were, in fact, a lot of the shelling that was going on was to hide the noise of oil well drilling, which was the real interest in being over there.
There had to have been something going on, that's for sure.
Mhm.
And
But even further back than that,
Korea as well.
and I was trying to find some information about the returning World War I veterans that were promised all kinds of honors and financial benefits upon returning in one piece from the European battlefields. And they were greeted with, they were fired upon when they protested, I think, in DC.
Oh, wow. World War One, Jed? I didn't know
World
that.
War I, yeah, and I think Pershing had something to do with it, General Pershing.
What strikes me about World War One is that poem, "In Flanders fields where poppies grow." So was this the pharmaceutical industry that,
It was just emerging. I mean, Rockefeller needed a place to dump the debris from his gas and oil business, and he thought the pharmaceutical business would be a convenient dumping ground, a little side business. No idea that it would become the bonanza for him that it did become. But yeah, and a lot of sickness came to people at the time of World War I because of World War I and the chemical weapons that were used then. I think really for the first time on a mass scale, poisoning was being used. Maybe it had been used before, I don't know, but it seemed like on this type of scale, World War I is when it first happened. And so you had also, there was industrialization going on and all the pollution that came from that. And then all of a sudden, for no reason, out of nowhere came Spanish flu. Remember? Yeah, well, which had nothing to do with Spain.
No.
But Spanish flu was, an example of the destruction of the immune system of people at that time who were not used to all the electrification, all the chemicalization, all the industrial pollutants, the decreasing availability of the type of medical treatment that they were used to as it was becoming corporatized. Even then, a little bit, at least it was becoming influenced a little bit by the new pharmaceutical businesses. But that's when they did the experiments to see about the contagion theory. They were testing the contagion theory, which had already been disproved in the 19th century. And they were unable to get people to become ill with Spanish flu by no matter what they did. They were taking mucus from cadavers that had died from supposed Spanish flu, and they would implant that in the nasal passages of healthy people. They could not get people to get sick.
Right, and homeopathic stuff, yeah.
But yeah, as far as the honors that had been at one time heaped upon the military to induce more military service, that lie kind of got exposed when the vets returned from World War I. But even before that, during Reconstruction, after the North decided that the fitting punishment for secession, for the apparent breach of the social contract, was death. And so when they did that, they wanted to impose military tribunals on the South after the treaty at Appomattox Courthouse. But let's see. So at that time, the people who had served to defend their Southern homes were tracked down and were threatened with the imposition of military tribunals, which, of course, if you ever thought you didn't have justice in one of the so-called civilian courts, you really didn't have any in the military tribunals. It was just,
I hear you.
yeah, just very, very rapid and very, very authoritarian.
Yeah,
So-
and it's always been kind of like a thought in my mind that Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, 7 years ago, a nation conceived in liberty. Why would we need to reconstruct something that was conceived in liberty?
yeah, it was totally nonsensical.
Unless you are the nobility and their posterity, and
Uh-huh.
reconstructing, and what was important to them, their more perfect union was feudalism. And since the New Deal,
Exactly.
since the New Deal came in with the 20th Amendment, the 20th Amendment brought in the New Deal on a day different than any previous administration. Therefore, it was a silent coup that was brought forth by, the senators, that 17th Amendment senators, direct election of them in 1913, of course, when the Federal Reserve Act was passed. The 16th Amendment put a tax on people, and that was not supposed to be. And the 17th Amendment.
The first decision interpreting it, the 16th Amendment, said this authorizes no new taxes. And I don't know what they did to get rid of that decision, but they got rid of it real quick. But that was the first decision interpreting
Yeah, that's why they needed the 17th Amendment, for the advice and consent of the Senate. Okay, so the advice and consent of the Senate under the 17th Amendment for the direct election of senators, what that did was breached Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution, their own Constitution, their own contract with the people.
Mhm.
It breached Article 1, Section 3 that said that 2 senators shall be chosen by the legislature of the states to represent and it doesn't go on to say to represent the state and the people, but I'm saying that because the state and the people, what that 17th Amendment did is it actually nullified the 10th Amendment, because neither the state.
A subsequent constitutional amendment can't do that.
Say again?
A subsequent constitutional amendment can't chip away at an earlier one.
Well, the advice and consent of the senators that are not bringing their, issues that they're advising and consenting on to the people or the state for their okay to go ahead and do what it is that they had been put into office to do. And they're put into office because of the Democrat and the Republicans, we need open ballots and stuff like that. I mean, there's just so much more to go along with this. And I'm probably not putting it in a ask questions. But that 1913 was a pivotal year in this country.
Well, but everything was a progression, a step by step. And that came after the Jekyll Island meeting, after they had, and that came after
Mhm.
around the same time as they got rid of some inconvenient banksters through the
Yes,
Titanic.
and let me go back to, if you don't mind, I'm going to go back to the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment. 13th
The
Amendment.
original 13th or the post Civil War 13th?
Oh, well, both of them, because the first one that was in there, it said, there shall be no title of nobility without the consent of Congress, without
Yeah,
the consent.
right.
Okay, that's a key phrase, without the consent, because what it's saying is that, oh, we'll tell them they're not, going to be here, but, we'll just give our consent and we're going to take over anyway. So the 13th Amendment, the other 13th
Okay,
Amendment.
so you're saying that we really, well, of course, we the people can decide that the original 13th Amendment means whatever we think it means.
Mhm.
And I don't remember anything formally saying that you bar members, you esquires who accepted a title of nobility just under that of knighthood would be able to hold positions of public trust contrary to the original 13th.
But
And
the preamble says that this is for us, because the nobility and we are their posterity.
I
know
don't
what
think
I'm
I don't think
saying?
the people understood that to mean that though. But and the language was purposely ambiguous so that people
Yes,
would
it
be
was.
confused. Yeah.
Yeah, but going to the 13th Amendment that we have now, it says that there shall be no involuntary servitude, and then it's got like a comma, except as duly convicted of a crime within the United nobility or any place subject to their jurisdiction. And a lot of people don't read that there's a second section of that. And in the second section, it says Congress shall enforce this by appropriate legislation. Well, if they're not enforcing involuntary servitude, what are they enforcing? Especially under secession and acceptance contract law. And, you'll be
Well, that's why
duly convicted of a
everybody who's
crime.
in the penitentiary is there by consent.
Everyone in the penitentiary is there by consent? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's what's been said. I've heard
Yeah,
that
I
around
mean,
circles. So they have to create that theory to justify what they do.
I
But
hear
but,
you.
but when you say the 13th Amendment we have now, we never stopped having the original 13th. It was never repealed.
Right. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it was ratified by the requisite number of states. So it passed. And when we've served notices on people on bar members, pointing that out to them that they may not hold positions of public trust, they never dispute that.
They don't, do they? Never.
Never. We've done it probably, I don't know, 10, 15 times, and they never do because they know what they are. And I was a member for a while. I didn't know. When I found out, that's when I resigned. Took me a long time.
I know a couple of others in your shoes. So, yeah, I hear you, and I appreciate all that you guys do. Guys, gals, you know what I'm saying.
Well, there's no reason, and I'd like to address people out there and that are considered, the good guys among the attorneys, if there is such. I don't see how you can participate in their, murderous corporations, though, and still be considered a good guy. But let's say you can. I would appeal to them to resign and become counsel to others as far as how the common law could work in their lives, instead of and disengage from all the nonsense rules of the European bar guilds and sucking up to the black robe bar members that are just corporate, stooges. And once you're free of that, and you're free of having to worry about, what is the Office of Disciplinary Counsel going to say if I do this or this or this? Once you free yourself of that, you're actually free to help people, which is, I hope, the reason that people went into the practice of law to begin with. But, it's not possible to do that morally, ethically, lawfully. I don't think it ever was. And it certainly isn't now. It's even more obvious than ever that you participate, the client may think that your loyalty flows only to him or her, but that isn't true.
That's right.
And it's a constant conflict of interest. So I urge attorneys out there who are having trouble with their conscience to pay attention to, and I think even in God's word, he addresses, woe to you lawyers. And I'm not sure I remember the rest of it, but he knows the potential for deception that is rife in the so-called legal profession. And it's unnecessary. You can really help people a lot more. And it's not necessary to have a law degree to exercise your First Amendment protected rights to talk to people about what they're going to do about their problems with the cabal. That's all really it is.
Yeah, Matthew 18. Yeah.
I wanted to bring up, before we leave the Civil War and being punished for disagreeing, death for disagreeing, I wanted to bring up the hopeful. The good news is that we do have a decision from that era, and it's called, I know I pulled it up, the Ex parte Milligan, 71 U.S. 2, 1866, from their corporate United States Supreme Court. They admitted that it was unconstitutional to impose a military tribunal and where there's an up and running civilian court. And of course, what they were calling the up and running civilian courts were themselves evidently military tribunals, as evidenced by the type of flag that they fly. And I'm no expert on the flags. You may be, Nikki, I don't know. But I suggest that what we've been subjecting ourselves to without knowing it all this time has been military tribunals. So once that's really clear and we can establish that they are military tribunals with our 3 notice process and all kinds of ways. And we don't have to put up with that, because as long as we have a true court, they have no authority, and they have admitted it. And they wouldn't have to have admitted it, but they did. And because, we decide what the lawful forum should be for our disputes. And there have been non-military fora like that going back to Bible times, back to the time of Moses.
Absolutely. And that's why I mentioned Matthew 18. If you have a problem with someone, you go one-on-one. And it'd be good if the local court system would just make sure that the person responds, and either they can work things out, full acceptance or conditional acceptance, and then maybe a mediator could handle that at that particular point in time.
I don't think there's any salvaging of the corporate system. I don't see how.
Well, are you
I-
familiar with the claim of cognizance? Are you familiar with claim of cognizance?
Oh, I have heard of the Oregon people talk about that quite a bit, but that presupposes that you've got a superior court over an inferior court, theirs being the inferior court. I don't consider that they're running a court at all.
No, that's not what that's about. It's about handling things, make it's an issue between two courts, not between
Yeah, between two courts, exactly, between two courts. But that assumes that they're running a court. They're not running a court. They don't meet their own definition in Black's.
No, they don't.
So Knutson's doesn't have anything, or however it's pronounced, doesn't really apply because you don't have two courts. You only have the People's Court. That's the only court. You don't have,
I hear where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah, their corporate tribunal is just a facade. It's just
Quasi-corporate municipalities and quasi-legislative, quasi-judicial.
yeah, but I try and make this simple for people because it's not necessary. In order for us to free ourselves, we don't have to understand every nuance of the deception.
Mhm.
It's a very carefully, intricately crafted con game that's been going on for a couple centuries now, or even further than that. So we don't have to know every little nitpicky detail, and we don't need to know their justifications to know that we're not bound by their justifications. And their justifications, they had a good shot at it for a couple centuries and they've screwed it up. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm done. No more chances. They don't run a court because courts are run by a sovereign. A court is a sovereign and his suite, his entourage, and they aren't sovereign. And people need to understand that. And I know that they're demonizing the word sovereign, but it was always, even before it was demonized, it was a well understood notion that
The character of the person. Yeah.
that a sovereign is one who has no accountability except to God.
The character is something that by people who do what they do when no one's looking. So
Yeah.
character.
Mm-hmm.
They always do what's right.
Right. So, I consider that they're the offices of any, if you give any of the constitutions, and I'm not even remembering now if the 1781 Constitution, which is the only one I think is an arguably valid constitution, I don't think that it even refers to, it doesn't refer to courts as such, or does it? Does it create I don't think it created the Article 1, 2, and 3 stuff. That didn't come till 1787, did it?
I'd have to look back myself. I don't recall.
Yeah, well, but anyway, we're the people and we can decide what the words mean, and like that one. And if you notice, the more recent the information is, like from their writings, the more perverted it is. So you're much better off going back, to the earlier, like you quoted earlier, the Blacks First, and they've got what are they up to now? The 7th or 8th, something like that. I like the 4th.
Blacks 9.
So I wanted to get into Well, the title of the broadcast is War Really Mass Murder? And I don't see how an argument can really be made that it isn't. And
Catherine, you had sent a few links. I don't know if you wanted to share any of those.
yeah, I've got one of them. Yeah, how about General Milley's unsent letter of resignation to Trump,
Okay.
where he talks about that he was considering resigning at that time. He never sent it, of course, but he was telling Trump that he was disgusted with the use of the military to create an atmosphere of fear in the American people. And of course, it's always been for that, the illusion that, we have a military force because we need a common defense against outsiders who would want to attack us. And of course, that's never been more real than now, that others may want to attack us. I wonder why.
So
But
this
if
is
anybody wants to read that, yeah.
so I was just reading through this, and supposedly he resigned and sent a letter of resignation, but he never actually sent it in.
Yeah, he was planning to resign, and then he didn't send it. So he didn't resign. I know, because we named him as a respondent in one of our notices of liability. He was still on the job. I don't like the guy, but I don't know. Maybe, who knows when he really wrote the letter, and who knows how many of these people who would be unable to justify their actions if we judged them on the basis of Bible law or common law. They wouldn't be able to justify themselves. None of them. They're all fomenting mass murder. They're participating in it. They're aiding and abetting in others committing acts of mass murder. So maybe he's getting his ducks in a row to, I was objecting. I thought about objecting anyway. So, I deserve favorable treatment, in the Nuremberg type tribunals that may come about. I don't think we're going to need a Nuremberg type tribunal. I don't think the first one exactly did the people much in the way of favors, but we got to take care of it. Every man or woman in every country, in every land, really needs to take on their own claims. If you were harmed by some policy of Joe Biden, and you can establish that, and you set out the facts, and you serve him, I don't care what his title was. I don't care what immunities he thinks he has. If he harmed you, then you can serve him with a claim and give him a chance to respond to it, which you won't do, and find him liable. You have enough of those people who've been harmed by these warmongers, murderers, for long enough, and they know that it's not gonna be good for them. Then I wanted to bring up the bleed over into the police power. I don't know if anybody have any comment about the police power and where it originated, anything like that. You probably know a lot more of the history of that than I do, Nikki, but my understanding is that it came from them. It just, one day in one of their corporate decisions, they said, we got the police power. We said so. We have it.
Well, here in Pennsylvania, it seems like it originated and I'd have to go back and look because it's been a long time since I saw that. But the state police was to enforce the banking law, and this was when gold was, confiscated.
Mhm.
So it was around that time. Maybe I'll find it by the end of the call here, and I'll share it with you so that you have that trust but verify. I mean, I might say words wrong or something.
Hmm.
But they were working for, I mean, police have generally always worked for the corporation,
Mhm, yeah.
pretending to be our government. So what do corporations do? They have one purpose and one purpose only, to make money. So
And the police enforce laws, so they're law enforcers. They're not peacekeepers.
they don't enforce law. They enforce corporate
Codes.
policy that we call law because we've been brainwashed. It isn't law. They enforce corporate code, corporate policy.
I've been encouraging people to think of it that we are the soil of the Republic and this beautiful tree of liberty that was supposed to have grown within us, with our help because of the nutrients being fed. But no, now we have GMOs on us, government mandated ordinances. We've got to clean up our soil, the soil of, liberty and the peace and happiness and prosperity.
Well, we're going to have to be good stewards, and we've been terrible stewards of the planet and of our own infrastructures and our own. We were meant to not have rulers, but we can't seem to resist the temptation to have a king. We always have wanted to worship other people instead of God. And that's, a character flaw that we just can't seem to shake off, or at least most people can't seem to shake it off.
Or they don't let their voice be heard that that's not what they're into. So they pretty much consent to it by keeping quiet and doing what they're told by their masters, who they choose by not saying, my master. God is my master.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No.
Right. Yeah, if you wanted to post the Albert Luima 1997 case, I remember that when it happened. You see that from the New York Post. Apparently, it's getting new attention because the perpetrator cop, who was apparently on the job when he did this, he raped this man with the sharp end of a broken broomstick handle.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Did you want, should I play it?
Well, it's just an article. If you just post the article somewhere.
Oh, okay. Because there was a video here.
Oh, was it a video? Okay.
I'm not sure how long it is. Let's see. I think.
What's going on there, Jojo? You all right, pal?
No. Hold on. There's an ad. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Nothing but love in my heart for all of New York City.
Oh, I guess he was released early from
wish
prison.
everybody well that was involved with my case. I have nothing but love in my heart for all of New York City and everybody in my case involved, especially Mr. Levine. I wish you all peace. I just want to rebuild my life at the pace that I'm able to. God bless everyone.
Okay, wait, now Albert Luima was the victim. I think he was the victim. He's the one we heard, right? And Justin Volpe was the perpetrator cop. And this kind of attack on the people, at the time, it was really, really shocking. Can you really say that today we haven't gotten so hardened that doesn't seem so shocking anymore.
Wow.
He was awarded, or he settled for, I think, something like $9 million. And he was able to rebuild some sort of a life after that.
Wow.
But I just wonder how much of I consider that it's false Christian doctrine to say that I forgive an attack such as that. Particularly now, it'd be different if the perpetrator was penitent, but he's not. He's not. And he got released early, the perpetrator.
Wow.
Something similar happened to my son. And in 2009, and it was a completely different story. Nobody got arrested except my son for being a victim. And he never got any medical treatment and never got any compensation either. Yeah, that's how it usually goes now. I don't bring it up because it's my son, but it was so similar to this case. And from 1997 to 2009, 12 years, the political climate has changed enough that there's a number of people out there who would still be rooting for that cop.
Yep.
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants to
And today more than ever, it seems, it's almost some people are so pro police. They don't care what they do to people. They're always going to be on the police side because they're pro police. The police are out there to protect and serve is what a lot of people believe so wholeheartedly. They wouldn't dare think that a police would rarely do anything like this.
But here's the kicker, people think, they believe the lie that they're there to protect and serve. They ain't there to protect and serve anybody but their corporate masters. They're not there to protect and serve us. And that was admitted by the United States Supreme Court in various courts of appeal and a number of decisions where they say that police agencies are not obligated to provide protection for citizens. Castle Rock versus Gonzalez, 545 U.S. 748, 2005 decision. And there have been other ones. I think I had mentioned the one, I don't have the citation handy, but the one that dealt with the two women who were beaten and raped for 14 hours and called the cops twice and they never came. And it ended up, that their case, using the corporate statutes and codes, of course, wouldn't happen in common law, but using statutes and codes, they said, oh, well, it's okay that they didn't come and help you because they have no duty to. There's no duty, there's no wrong when you violate the non-existent duty, see? That's how that works.
Jeez.
And it's the same deal with so-called child protective services. And that's the Ducheney versus Winnebago County something. It's a U.S. Supreme Court decision also. And they also said when a child was murdered under conditions where it was very foreseeable, of course this child is going to be murdered. And whoop, lo and behold, he's murdered. Well, we had no duty to protect. We had no duty to take that child away out of that home. No, they're too busy taking children out of good homes rather than, they're more likely to take a child out of a good home than they are to actually protect a child, since they have no duty to protect the child. And the corporate purpose that they're serving is better served by taking children from good homes because their parents are going to be able to afford attorneys and so forth, and they'll be filing, and there'll be, fees generated through the court registry investment system. And so it does make more sense in their corporate system to to have it that way, that there is no duty to protect the people.
And that isn't that the common law crimes of barratry, maintenance, and champerty? Barratry
Yes.
is the exciting of lawsuits. Maintenance is the maintaining of them by members of the bar, and champerty is the splitting of the spoils, basically.
I thought champerty was like the fomenting of disputes that otherwise wouldn't really be disputes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And they do it because they get a paycheck. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's money to be made in disputes. The more virulent the dispute, the more money can be made. But I'm looking here, and I'm gonna, if I'm able to, I will post the oaths that military, and I think it's something similar with cops, take upon assuming their duties. It looks like they're, and I'll post it for all to see here if I can. Maybe I'm not able to.
What were you trying to post?
It's just a couple of paragraphs that I had extracted. I'm not able to do that. Okay, I can send it to you in an email, and maybe you can.
Okay. Or you could put it in the chat.
I'm trying to put it in the chat. It under no circumstances am I going to be allowed to put it in the chat.
Okay.
No, I don't know who's able to put things in the chat. I see other people.
We have
You have to be not on the call to put it on the chat, I guess, right?
No, me, Nikki, and Angela have been posting in the chat. I'm talking about the chat here that we're in, not the YouTube one.
There's a private chat and comments.
Yeah, the private chat on the
In the
right-hand
stream.
side.
In the StreamYard.
Or you could just go ahead and send it in an email, Catherine.
I have not seen. I thought we were in StreamYard, but apparently not. So, okay, so I'm sending it to you now. There's two oaths, one for a commanding officer and one for enlisted people, I guess.
Okay.
So, but the only thing I wanted to make a note of there was that the oath is to, I do solemnly swear or affirm I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. In other words, the cabal, against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
They changed that. They changed that in 1962. I was in the Navy in 1961, and my oath had "of America" in it. And in 1962, the oath was changed to the United States of America was taken out as an enlisted person. So I'm kind of familiar with what was happening at the time. And data processing, I was a machine accountant. They don't even have that rate anymore. They have it data processing techs now. I learned how to wire boards and things like that. But we were military personnel were being outsourced of the data processing field pretty much. And they were bringing in civil service. Civil service workers can't be fired, right? Unless they really do something wrong. They were laughing about how they were putting codes in the Fortran and the COBOL language of the day, for computers, because it was job security for them. If there was an error, we'll find, we know where we put the stuff in, we'll just take it out. So, the voting machines and stuff like that, one of the first things I asked the officials who were putting these voting machines in is who is holding the codes for these machines. And what I was told that one or two people And all I could think of is that proverb, for a piece of bread, a man will transgress. So anyhow, I
Okay, and then when it comes to oaths, I just sent you another email, Luciana.
Okay.
I don't know if you were able to post the one I sent you about the oaths.
Where am I posting it?
I don't, if you post it on the right hand side that other people are posting on.
Oh, okay. I could do that. Hold on.
It will not allow me to do that.
Okay, on YouTube, you mean? Okay. Yeah.
I'm on StreamYard.
Okay. Yeah, it won't.
Okay,
On YouTube.
foreigner. Okay.
It won't let me post the entire thing. It did here. No, it didn't. It won't let me do the whole thing.
Okay.
But there's a link that I could post that has it on military.com, right?
Yeah, military. Right,
Oh,
right.
Okay, so I'll post.
Military.com and look for the oaths. Yeah.
Okay, so I did that. I posted the.
And then I sent you something else too. When it comes to oaths, there are alternative oaths that some of our so-called public servants or whatever they are taking instead of or in addition to the public oaths that they take. And I just sent you that. Did you get that about the Kol Nidre?
I did.
And I think if you just put the Kol Nidre itself in, it might fit in their little rules.
I'm trying to Google it and it comes up as something Jewish.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever their oath is, there's also this other oath.
Okay. Okay, I posted that.
That includes the words, all vows that we are likely to make, all oaths and pledges we are likely to take between this Yom Kippur and the next Yom Kippur, we publicly renounce. So they renounce those public oaths.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying all of them do that, but a lot of them do.
Yeah.
We don't know because they don't tell us, you know. Okay. All right. So we know that the people that are telling us that we're your military, we're your defense, as well as the ones who say, oh, we protect your communities, are just corporate employees. They have one purpose, and that's not to protect anybody except their corporate paycheck and the profits that lead to that. All right, so they don't have, when you couple that with the fact that they have no duty to protect us, their superiors have told them they don't have any duty to protect us. And they have an affirmative duty as corporate employees to make a profit. So that's what they're doing. It's pretty clear. And can we really afford this? Can we really afford to pay people who make money hurting us?
Someone put in the comments, how important is an oath?
Well, I think it's something sacred between the one taking the oath and God, but for those who don't believe in God, it probably doesn't mean much at all, does it?
Doesn't seem to mean much to them.
No.
Not at all. Absolutely not. Absolutely
No.
not. And for instance, a lot of their codes and such state that the oaths that they take should have the seal of office from the person administrating the oath. And we're finding that hardly any of their oaths have the seal of office from the person administrating the oath. And some believe that the reason they don't put it in there, knowing that it's against their own codes, is that if they ever get sued or whatever, called out on that, oh well, you violated your oath of office. They could come and say, oh well, there wasn't a seal on it, so the seal wasn't there. So actually, it wasn't really a valid oath of office. So you could get in trouble for not having a valid oath of office, but what harm is that going to do anybody, right?
But we've been looking for oaths of office for quite a few years, haven't we, Luciana? Have you ever seen anybody get in trouble for violating their oath of office? I haven't.
Never. And I've never seen anybody get in trouble for perjury.
No.
And there's so much perjury going on in their private corporations that, in their so-called courts, tons of perjury going on in there. And I never see anybody paying any kind of price for perjury. And I never see there's laws on treason and explaining what treason is. And you never see a judge or anybody going down for treason. When's the last time you heard of that?
Well, treason, it sounds good, and everybody likes to accuse them of treason. But when you really look at the definition, it's kind of slippery. It's really kind of hard to it's giving aid and comfort to the enemy. But that could mean anything. It's not really that specific. I'd rather deal with the simple garden variety common law offenses, crimes and torts that they're committing all the time, that there's just no question about. And they, for some reason, when they're presented with a notice that you did this and you did that and you did this other thing, these are the facts, the who, what, when, where, and how, then, and if we're wrong, tell us. But they don't, because I don't know if they're fearful of perjury, because when we frame it the way we frame it, it might appear that it's easier to enforce a perjury accusation if they were to attempt it. And we're not saying, and our notices typically don't say anything that's false. And we make a concerted effort to make sure that what we're saying is true, and they don't dispute it. They might dispute our authority to do so without specifying ever. And we had one guy do that once, and he didn't even specify anything. I mean, it was just kind of more of a hurled insult. I mean, yeah, I get it. There's no end to the contempt they have for us. I understand. Anyway, just before I leave the Ex parte Milligan, 71 U.S. 2, 1866 case, which is still, I think, going to be very powerful for us, because where it admits that our common law courts are probably the only things that stand between us and military tribunals, including their fake corporate tribunals where they display the battle flag. And in that, and this was a very serious matter in which the North was, or agents from the North were trying to get an execution of a Confederate soldier.
Mhm.
And they wanted the death penalty. And the U.S. Supreme Court, their U.S. Supreme Court, so-called, would not allow it. So, yeah, they like to say, well, those are old, antiquated cases. We're not. Once you've admitted something, you've admitted it. We like to be in the position to tell them or ask them, were you lying then or are you lying now?
Right, right.
And they don't want to play that. They don't want to play that with us. So that's why, our notices of liability are generally defaulted on. If they could dispute it, I believe they would. But the card they play best is the do nothing card. They're really good at that, and that's what we get. So I urge people to take another look at the reverence that we've been brainwashed into giving people who have served either in as code enforcers. I won't call them law enforcers because they don't enforce law, or the military. And I have people in my family who were in the military, and they were generally in the Army Air Corps before it became the Air Force. And what a disgrace that branch of the military has become for those who know about the adrenochrome facilities that are found on some of their Air Force bases. Yeah. So I don't have any personal animosity against American military, since my grandfather, my uncle, and my fiance were all in the military. And at the time, they drank the Kool-Aid too. They thought what they were doing was honorable. They thought they were defending their country. And then I know with my fiance that he a couple months before he died, he came to realize that he had been duped. And his father before him, serving in World War II, had been duped. And his grandfather, who had served in World War I, had been duped. And it did finally come together for him. Anybody can be duped. But let's don't stay there.
Right, right.
And I think that by staying there and worshiping people who are committing acts of murder is not something that our true sovereign, our Heavenly Father, is going to understand that that we ought to be doing. And
I don't think also, I don't know, I doubt that he's going to be okay with true Christians or his people sitting back and saying nothing when it happens, just watching it happen and going on about their day, or, just, oh, well, there's nothing I could do about it. Oh, that's too bad. And well, yeah, they're going to do what they're going to do. I mean, you got to stand up at some point,
Right.
You've got to stand up at some point.
And people might not know, well, what can I do? Have you ever been harmed by these people? And did you just swallow it? Stop swallowing it. You can do a notice of claim, and you can get a contract with them at least, and you may be able to get a judgment if you you and a friends form a true common law court. You can get a judgment, and that's going to that's going to make an impression. The more of us who do it, the more of an impression it will make. It's like water on rock, you know, little bit at a time, little bit by little bit. And sometimes we get, you know, we don't have to go through the entire 3-notice process. In minor disputes, people recognize, oh, now that I see it in black and white, I did this and I did that, and I can't dispute that. And the law does say this, and it's probably, you know, not something I can reasonably dispute, even if I hired an attorney.
Mhm.
So I may as well just resolve this early. And that's oftentimes what happens for most people who are, at least if they're not decent people, they remember what it is to be decent, at least.
But then you have those that wear black dresses and sit on a stage called judges and such that well, it's true. They're literally in a black dress sitting up on a stage, and many people worship them. But they are pretty much actors. And when they're given notices, they also do not respond. They know they're guilty. Many of federal crimes committed, and so a lot of times federal crimes against the most vulnerable, like innocent children, the elderly, and such. And in the notice, we state the crimes that they have committed, and they never respond. They know they're guilty of it, but the reason they don't try to fix what they've done is because in their cases, they have a huge blue army that protects them. You know, they have the police, and they have all these other armies that they have strategically set up, and who violate their oaths every day and believe, oh, well, if this actor that sits on stage in a black dress signed this piece of paper, it's my job to defend that actor in a black dress that's called the judge, no matter what he did. Even if someone proves to me that actor in a black dress called the judge sitting on stage signed a paper that broke federal law, and you show me the federal law that he broke, it really doesn't matter, because I'm police and my job is to protect that actor in a black dress. And that pretty much is what's going on. They violate their oath daily. They don't care. They don't care that these judges are guilty of harming children and signing bogus orders that broke federal law. The police will defend and protect them no matter what. And it's
not no matter what, because when it comes down to their own liability, they're going to look out for themselves, and they're going to know that their superiors may not protect them, and it probably wouldn't be the first time that their superiors would throw them under the bus. I mean, we know every time, it used to always be every time a child would be murdered, and when CPS was on the case, they would there would be no recourse. There would be no recourse among the superiors, but the hourly worker who is involved would be the one thrown under the bus. The executives, the black-robed wonders, they would be protected, but it's always the lower ranking people who are going to pay the price for implementing the policies of their superiors. So they need to keep that in mind and wonder, do they really have my back? I don't think that they do. When push comes to shove, I don't think they can take that to the bank, that their superiors really will cover for them. And we've seen that with the military. You know, they have been betrayed by their own in the past, and they will be again. And same way with cops, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they need to keep that in mind, and that they don't have any immunity that they think that they do. That's just a fairy tale, that immunity. And once we let them know and we do in our notices, you don't have immunity. You can't just say I was doing my job. That's not a defense. And maybe for some of them, they didn't understand that. They weren't told that before. I think you have to appeal to their own selfish motives, their own self-interest. They will not do what's right because it's right. They will do what's right because it's in their interest to do so. That's just, usually the way it is.
Someone mentioned in the chat, they said, if a common law court goes after these judges, will that judge be worried? The common law court dies that we start does not have the police and military at its behest like the corporate courts do. And I just let them know that we are presently, working on a lot of things, but we have the Lord our God who goes before us. Mm-hmm. And if they their army and their presence of the police force and all looks extremely frightening and is extremely large, but I think it's absolutely nothing compared to the Lord that goes before us. And we have to go back to who do you serve and who do you fear? Because we serve a God who is almighty and delights in miracles. And it's pretty exciting to know that. And we see a lot of miracles every day. And we may not see some things happen right away. But if I were on the other side, I'd be afraid of when it does happen, what's that going to look like? What is that going to look like for them?
Well, they acknowledge that we, the people, do have the right to organize a militia. I mean, we don't need them to admit it. It's a God-given right to defend oneself. And whether we call ourselves a neighborhood watch, a committee of safety, a security force, or I kind of like the idea of People's Defense Brigade. To emphasize the defensive nature of it. Can you imagine someone who was confronted by violent code enforcers on the highways and needed someone else to intervene? It would be nice to have a true force, that you could call on in your state, in your county. Mm-hmm. And we have some people that are dealing with crimes being committed against them on their property in connection with a wrongful eviction. And, that gets real violent, real fast.
Very.
And they had some prior knowledge, prior warning that it could be happening. So as a practical matter, then that means that people can be brought in. That, I wonder how some of this stuff would go down if people from a citizens, not citizens, but I don't like to use that word, People's Defense Brigade, a common law militia, show up purely defensively to make sure that crimes don't get committed against the protected man or woman. And we're not there yet, but we will get there. We will get there. And as they escalate their violence, we will have to respond to it. We will.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I just want to give a quick shout out to our new friend who's done a little given us a lot of technical help. Our friend Troy. He just emailed us a little issue we were having has been resolved. And you can see our pending notices on the court website, not only on the computer or laptop. We had an issue where people weren't able to see it on the phone. I think Angie was running into that issue too. And he was able, our friend Troy, thank you so much, was able to fix that issue while we were here on this podcast, and now it does. Our pending notices are showing up on our court website. So
okay, that's great. That's great. Yeah. That's a big relief. Yeah, and Troy's a patriot too. So yeah, it's always nice to be able to do business with other patriots.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you, Troy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Luciana.
Oh yeah, Luciana designed the website, and she's been administering it and tending to its needs every time it has a hiccup.
Sometimes at 4 a.m.
Yeah, oftentimes then.
Whatever's necessary, you know.
Yeah,
we have to do whatever's necessary. Somebody in the chat. Hold on, let me get out of here.
Oh, I haven't been paying attention like I should to what's on the chat.
In the private chat here in StreamYard, somebody asked, could Catherine please explain Ex parte Michigan again? I did not catch the importance of that.
Oh, Ex parte Milligan.
I'm sorry, Milligan. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. That was a decision from the United States Supreme Court where the North was trying to impose military tribunals against the people of the South during Reconstruction after the Civil War. And in particular, they were interested in executing this man, this former Confederate soldier. And I don't know the details, but the U.S. Supreme Court basically said they don't have any jurisdiction. Because if you folks in the South, you have your own courts, that's where he should be tried, not in a military tribunal. A military tribunal would be only if there's nothing else. That's why we have to supply the something else, or we're going to be subject to those military tribunals. Thanks for the question, because I want to make sure to drive that point home. Very important decision. I won't call it very important confession, I should say, by them. And we can sure use it. They can't exactly say that, and they haven't. When we provided public notice of our formation to the cabal members, they didn't say word one that we couldn't do it, because they know good and well that their own case law says we can do it, and there's not a problem with it. So, yeah, Mike Lentini comments, my understanding is the whole birth certificate scam is human trafficking. Yeah, probably so. Common law didn't recognize human trafficking or identity theft either, that happens every time one of them arrests people, in other words, kidnaps them. Then they take their DNA and their other identifiers. Now, human trafficking is not recognized in common law, but it's recognized in their system. And when they're acting in their system and they violate that, yeah, that's a violation. Yeah, that's a criminal act in their system, criminal offense. And it's also fraud. It's also in common law that would be I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's some kind of fraud. They use that for financial. They use the name they created from our birth name to create this artificial legal fiction entity that they use to make money with and to commit other frauds with. You know.
Yeah, it is kidnapping as well.
What is it?
Kidnapping by the birth certificate and stuff like that, by coercion.
I don't know that just, the creation of the all capital name wouldn't necessarily be kidnapping, because if it doesn't involve, the abduction of a human being.
Oh, okay. You're talking about the corporal, not.
Yeah, but when they create the artificial entity, a
Gotcha.
few days after birth, usually when they register the birth.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that in terms of kidnapping, because it just seems like it belongs to them,
They
parents
do
can't
commit
bank or anything else.
every time they arrest somebody, that's a kidnap.
Yes,
They have an authority.
difference.
But it's trafficking, because trafficking doesn't have to involve
I hear
sexual
you.
abuse. Anytime they're making money off of, some wrongful act committed against the man or woman, then, and they do, it even though it's against, they're using the artificial entity, they use that particular form of the artificial entity to create confusion about what's the difference between Catherine Hine, normally spelled in the all capital Catherine Hine, and then they make other entities. I mean, if you have a middle name, then they use the middle initial, and they have all kinds of combinations and permutations of that. They'll use the first name with a letter, and then the middle name as if it was a first name. They do all kinds of stuff so that they can have different streams of income flowing from each of the fictions that they created, the securities and the securities that flowed from that. Yeah. Am I missing anybody else's question?
I know in the Bible, I believe it's Exodus 21:16, says anyone who kidnaps someone is to be put to death, whether the victim has been sold or is still in the kidnapper's possession.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. And that would be up to the people, whatever they believe is appropriate under the circumstances, considering all the facts and hopefully praying about it. And I believe our decisions ought to be unanimous. So,
Well, I don't think it's up to us to kill anyone. I mean, or put to death. I mean, that's up to God, of course. But I'm just stating the fact that there are several verses in the Bible that speak about how horrific and how against it kidnapping. The Lord our God is very against kidnapping.
I don't think that I haven't found anything in the Bible that to me is real explicit that capital punishment in a people's court would never be allowed. I think that possibility is left open. So, but what we don't want is for people, and that's another reason for having a common law court. What we don't want is people to get so fed up with everything that's going on. And I see this on the pages of social media that let's just go in there, let's just string them up, let's just do this and let's just do that. Well, no, no, then you get accused of being an insurrectionist and blah, 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 blah. There's an orderly, lawful process about it, and let's do that. Let's do that. And they need to, the people who are committing these crimes and torts against the people need to keep that in mind, But they don't want it to get to that point either. So let's behave ourselves. Let's take care of the planet that God entrusted to us. Okay. Does anybody want to comment at all, or offer any other suggestions or questions? Okay.
No, I think I'm gonna go ahead and get off of here. I need to get to bed.
Yeah, I think we all probably are heading that direction. Thanks for coming on, Angie and Nikki. And
Not a problem.
There was a great comment in the YouTube just now by Mike. He said regarding putting them to death, or he said that millstone around the neck thing. They don't string them up; they string them down. It's very true. I like that. Mhm. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We'll be back next week at same time, Thursday night at 9 Eastern.
Mhm.
And see y'all there and bring your questions.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. So
Thank you.
next Thursday at 9:00.
All right, you guys have a great weekend and a good night.
You too. Good night.
Yahweh
hon.
bless. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Catherine.